Welcome back. My name is David Hopper, and this is part of a larger series of videos that follow the alphabet from A to Z to help us launch new ministries, new campuses, new churches. And today, we are talking about the letter W. W is for weekly operations. Now, in your notes, it reads, "What would you say you do here?" It's a hilarious quote from the movie Office Space. I love it, but whether you've seen the movie or not, it's a legitimate question to be addressed in this chapter. As a pastor, you may be asked the same thing that my own kids often ask me. What do you do? And then I answer, well, I'm a pastor. And they respond with, yeah, I know, but what do you do? And in truth, a lot of adults wonder this about pastors as well. So in this video, I'm going to give you 4 levels of pastoring. The first is the 10,000 foot level. This is the level that operates above the fray of opinion and distractions. Do not forget the mission, the vision that God gave you in launching your church or ministry. The vision I had for my first launch was to reach 6.5 million people in the San Joaquin Valley of Central California. My idea for reaching that goal was to establish new church launches in the various cities, which were all within 30 minutes or less of each other. By the day of the launch, there were over 200 people on board, but they all had their own opinions on how to grow a church, and I listened. The advice I heard ranged from what I should preach, who I should preach to, what events we should or should not be hosting, who should be leaders in which departments, what people we should discourage from joining, and many other things. It was a constant barrage on how to run a church. In addition to advice from those who were attending, I also got unsolicited advice from people who had never been to my church. The denomination had input. My friends, the ones who never once attended, had advice for me. Many surrounding churches and churches in faraway places all had input on how I should organize and grow my church. Pastoring is one of those few careers that is vulnerable to the advice of many other people, regardless of their credentials. You may have multiple degrees, studied and read many textbooks and books constantly for years, been actively involved in ministry for 20 plus years. You will still be given advice from people who've never done any of those things. Consequently, pastors are much more prone to depression, more guarded than most, and sometimes allow only a few people to get close to them. The solution is to keep flying at that 10,000 foot level of what you're launching. Even though you must stop for periodic breaks to take care of routine church business, in other words, don't forget your vision or let it get lost in those lower levels of pastoring. Your greater mission, the vision frame, must be always in front of you and always on your team's mind as well. Put copies of it on your wall space. Write it on cards and take it with you everywhere you go. Print it on a t-shirt. Whatever it takes to remind you and others of your ultimate mission. Habakkuk 2:2 says, "Write the vision and make it plain on tablets." There's a similar command that's given to Israel about keeping the commandments of God always before their eyes. And it's a pretty fair model when we think about this as well. It's in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 through 9. It says, "And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." Do not assume that others just know your vision. In my personal example above, I just assumed that everyone understands the greater mission of 6.5 million people because it was so impressed into my mind. I forgot that others had not been thinking about it like I had. And I wound up listening to all that chatter beneath and around me. As you continue to lead the ministry or the campus or the church that you're launching, you're going to be pulled in many directions. Take special occasion to remind yourself and your team of why you launched the project in the first place. Go over that vision frame again and again. Go over each of the points outlined in the study guide chapter by chapter. Go over your notes each year. Watch these videos. Always look for ways to remind yourself of the greater mission that you are on. The second level of pastoring, as you think of the week-to-week levels, is the 90-day rock level. So with the 10,000-foot level of leadership firmly impressed in your mind, you can now safely attend those necessary business activities required at the lower levels of pastoring. The 90-day rock level has been covered from so many different angles in the previous chapters of the study guide and on the videos. So what I'm going to do with this video is kind of tell you how they're developed. And I call it the quarterly retreat. Every 3 months, go off site for about 8 hours with your executive team or your leadership team or your staff, whoever your top volunteers are if it's a smaller church. Who and how many will be determined by your size. Now, start the meeting with free dialogue as your opener. You need to have these open discussions where nothing's off limits for about an hour. This can be personal news. Maybe you didn't realize some personal things that are happening at home in someone's life that's affecting the quality of their work. It could be a fight that's been festering between two coworkers that no one's addressing. Start this time by asking a few questions. What is working in your life and your job right now? What is not working in the organization right now? And what are your expectations for today? Take the next hour to review the previous quarter. Talk about the last quarter's rocks, the benchmarks. Were they reached? Are you still using the right scorecard? What are you measuring? Are you measuring the right things? Do you need to adjust anything? The next hour needs to be used to go over the vision frame. This is the greater mission that you're all involved with and why you got on board with this mission in the first place. Where are you falling short of this mission? What issues do you have? Now, note here, you're not solving the issues at this point. You're just writing them all down, keeping an issues list going on some kind of whiteboard in the room. Then, for the next couple of hours, establish the next quarter's rocks. What are your benchmarks that you're going for? What are those 3 to 7 things that you have to accomplish in the next quarter? As you begin this time, you'll probably have like 20 ideas popping up, but keep working on this list until you get that list down to around 5. Once you have the next quarter's rocks, assign who will oversee each rock. And as you do this, a lot of those earlier rocks, the 20 ideas that came up, that may not be part of the main rocks, but they can be assigned to each leader's personal rocks, which they've listed under their main rock that they're trying to accomplish. Each leader will have their own rock to accomplish, the bigger rock for the quarter, but also 3 to 7 things they need to accomplish to get the major rock completed. Finally, tackle all the issues that were potentially brought up in the first hour. With your remaining time, go through the issues list that you created throughout the entire meeting and try to work each one out. You'll find that this becomes much easier to accomplish once you've established your main rocks, who owns each rock, and what each leader needs to be focused on in the next quarter. If you'll implement this kind of leadership, there's nothing your organization will not be able to do. The third level of pastoring is done with the 1 week out level. Now, for most pastors, the Sunday morning service is the only thing on the radar. Now, granted, it is extremely important because most people do not see anything or know anything else about the church beyond Sunday morning. However, if that is all your church is about, then the greater mission will be lost. The key at this level is to establish weekly operations that help keep your mission on course. Have a 1-hour creative meeting on Monday morning to talk about the previous Sunday and the next Sunday. Assign individual tasks to the proper leaders and then give them the freedom to do their jobs. Include a time on Monday to meet with your teaching team to develop the concept for next week's message. Address the goals of what you want to accomplish, what you want the takeaway to be, how to make the main point resonate with the people, and how to connect with people before and after Sunday morning. Schedule meetings for various other things that will come up on your calendar, such as counseling appointments, wedding or funeral preparations. Make sure that your assistant concurs with your schedule. On Monday morning, write your entire list of to-dos for the week, and then see how many of them you can delegate to other people. Take an hour on Monday to write thank you notes to anyone you observed this last Sunday doing something special or who needs a note of encouragement. Set aside one day to get away with the Lord and keep your mind focused on the mission and sermon preparation. In other words, make Monday the day you plan the week in detail to avoid being blindsided with lots of surprises throughout the week. When you're not prepared, you run the risk of losing sight of the greater mission, your vision frame, which is why you launched this ministry in the first place. Now, although a lot of pastors say they need Mondays to recover from Sunday, you will find that you will need less recovery days if you are better prepared for the week. Create those healthy habits now before you launch gets too far down the road. Finally, we have the weeds level. There are times when the pastor will have to get into the trenches where the weeds are to solve a problem. Again, if you establish healthy habits, hopefully this will not be very often. But nevertheless, do not think you're too important to get your hands dirty. Weeds, they represent things like letting someone go. There'll be times such as the 2020 pandemic that is going on as I'm writing this, when every pastor has had to reinvent the way to have church. The decision to do things a different way will not be accepted by everyone. But the point is that the pastor must get his hands dirty and make the decision. This is as much part of the job as preaching on Sunday morning. Weeds cannot be delegated to someone else, especially when the problem is about an issue that could possibly derail the church. People may be mad at you for making a strong decision on something that's extremely important, but they will be far more disappointed in a leader he keeps putting off major issues that just gets worse and worse and worse. Now, a word of caution here. There is a difference between a major issue and a minor issue. If you're getting involved in every minor issue, you're just a micromanager. And that can also derail a church just as fast as not getting involved in a major issue. You need to be able to tell the difference. In your study guide, you will see the homework for this week. I look forward to going over it in our next coaching session, and I cannot wait to hear how you're doing in each of these areas, and I will see you in the next video.